Hey Reds fans, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Liverpool, and Merseyside is red yet again, as it has been for so many years now. What a crazy game. There's that cliche that people say, when you have games of two halves, and I think this was very much a game of two halves, but for a very different reason than the cliche is used for. The first half was just crazy, with goals flying in, lots of action, tackles crunching in, and frankly some poor defending on both sides, both on our side and Everton's side. But I think that kind of took its toll on the players, and in the second half it was very, very much more subdued. There weren't so many chances, and I'm surprised Everton didn't come out and attack us a bit more in the second half. They're in the bottom three, their manager's under pressure, all of the players are under pressure, but they didn't seem to want to claw back into the game. It was 4-2 at the beginning of the second half, and had they scored 4-3, we may have got a little bit nervous or something like that. But I was surprised to see them not attack so much in the second half. But we closed out the second half well, and then Wijnaldum getting the goal at the end of the second half to kind of just wrap it all up. But it was one of the first games on Amazon Prime. I think it was their biggest game that they were promoting here in the UK, and it was interesting watching the Premier League on a new broadcaster. I've got to say, Amazon did a really, really good job in terms of the streaming experience and all that type of stuff, so kudos to them. Not sure about their commentator choice. They had Ali McCoist commentating on the Liverpool game. Not sure about him, but regardless of all the other stuff, it's just crazy to think that our essentially B team beat Everton in a Merseyside derby. 5, 6, even 7 years ago, we wouldn't have dared not put out our strongest 11 for the Merseyside derby, and Klopp almost arrogantly, I think, put out I wouldn't say our B team, maybe our A-1 team, let's call them, because I think it's a bit disrespectful to call them the B team because they were so good. But our A-1 team just absolutely tore apart, essentially now relegation threatened Everton. I think they move into the bottom three as a result of this, this game, as well as some of the other games that happened in the Premier League as well tonight. They would not really going to talk too much about Everton, but they are atrocious. They've got a lot of things to address in their team. I think their defence is woeful. And I think they've obviously spent a lot of money, but they obviously haven't spent it in the right ways. Marco Silva just seems to be lost. They've got a lot of rebuilding to do. But I guess the surprises in the game started before the game even started. I think when the lineups came out and I saw the lineup, I think all Liverpool fans were a bit like, oh, okay, wasn't expecting that. We'd had no signs from Klopp that he was starting or thinking about rotating the squad. And I think actually, because this was the first time in the season that Klopp's really rotated, we're obviously unbeaten in the Premier League, and this is the first time he'd really made a wholesale changes to the team. I think this is why it probably came across as a little more of a shock. But I think today's game is a great example to Klopp that he can trust in some of these players who haven't been starting. And I wouldn't be surprised if over the next month and even beyond, as we get into February, March, if we get into the further stage of the Champions League, that these players do become more integral to the Premier League games and actually even the Champions League games. But so in came Lallana into midfield, Milner also into midfield, with Wijnaldum the only one retaining his place in the midfield. And then up front were the ones where there were the biggest changes. So Origi and Shaqiri coming in for Salah and Firmino, with Mane retaining the place. So it was strange to see, but I guess obviously seeing the result and how the first half panned out, his decisions were 110% justified. All the decisions he made. Watching some of the analysis post game, Roberto Martinez on Amazon Prime made a really, really good really good point. Kind of saying that before the game, when we saw the lineups, all of the questions were around, will Origi be good enough? Will Shaqiri be good enough? It's his first start in the Premier League since January. Lallana hasn't again played too much Premier League football. How good will they be? And actually, when you look at the game and you look back, they were arguably our three best players in the game. Obviously, Klopp had them fired up, and I'm sure they want a point to prove as well that they want to play a role If we do have a chance of winning the title this year, they want to play a role in us winning that title, and today definitely was a big part for that. And I think so. Kudos to those players and their mentality. I think it could be very easy to not be involved in the team and kind of lose a bit of faith, let your head drop. But these guys really seized their opportunity today, and that was so good to see as a Liverpool fan, because last game, for example, was a good example where we weren't able to necessarily rely on the goals from the front three. So it was really good today to freshen it up and see a different combination up front, which led to different problems for Everton. I almost think coming into the game, Everton were preparing for our best 11, so they were preparing for Salah, Firmino, Mane up front. And actually what they got was very different to that, with Origi and Shaqiri providing kind of very different skills and qualities to the team that Salah and Firmino did. And I actually think that maybe confused Everton more than if we had played our best team. I think they were probably more prepared for that. But that just kind of, maybe Klopp knew that, and Klopp is kind of playing into that. So if that was a conscious decision from him, then fair play. But the game, as I mentioned earlier, the first half was just kind of chaotic, really. Like the game started off kind of at a relatively fast pace, I would say, from a Premier League game. We've normally kind of tried to ease ourselves into the games, the last couple of games, but the first goal was scored by Divock Origi. The ball was played out to Sadio Mane, who broke into Everton's half and played an absolutely exquisite through ball. I think Mane really took up that mantle of being the kind of main player in the team, with a fantastic through ball to Divock Origi, who was able to round Jordan Pickford and then slot it into the open net. So that was a fantastic start, and the second goal actually came very soon afterwards. Again, another fantastic little through ball to Shaqiri, making the diagonal run, and he was able to just slot the ball past Jordan Pickford. And after, I think it was 20 minutes, we were 2-0 up, and I was like, wow, this is better than I expected. I expected us to beat Everton, but I didn't expect it to be like this. And I was kind of going, well, let's see when. I don't think it will be too long before we get goals 3, 4, 5, and even more. But we were pegged back. Michael Keane getting a goal for Everton from a corner, and I think this is something I touched on towards the end of the episode in my shout out to Klopp. But our defending wasn't the best either. Everton's was shocking, but ours really wasn't so good either. But we did recover from that setback, although it was 2-1. Everton never really looked like they were going to make it 2-2. And we made it 3-1 with a fantastic ball from Dejan Lovren from the back. Lovren, Van Dijk and Trent Alexander-Arnold played some fantastic cross-field long balls throughout the game. And Dejan Lovren played the ball up long towards Divock Origi, and Divock Origi took a fantastic touch with the outside of his right boot before just lifting it over Jordan Pickford. And for me, that was my favourite goal by a mile. I think the touch, the ball was fantastic, and then the touch from Origi was so difficult to do. And then obviously composing himself before lobbing it over Jordan Pickford. So, that was my favourite goal, and I was jumping around at this time. I was like, this is amazing. We haven't played this well actually in quite a few weeks. As these episodes have been going on, I've kind of been saying that we've kind of ground out the results. We haven't actually been playing so well, and seeing us 3-1 up within 30 minutes, I was like, wow, we really are doing something great today. And then just before half time, Mane slotting the ball away after Trent Alexander-Arnold got away on the break from a corner. And so 4-1, everything was rosy, but we were again pegged back just before half time. Richarlison kind of dinking a header into the far corner, making it 4-2 at the break. Kind of, as I said earlier, that I think the first half took its toll on the players. I think the less said about the second half, the better. It wasn't the best in terms of quality. Sadio Mane missed a few gilt-edged chances, but we did wrap the whole game up, making it 5-2 towards the end of the game, with Firmino, who'd come on with a good bit of skill, laying it off to Wijnaldum, who got the ball into the far corner. So, it was kind of, all in all, just perfect in so many ways. Everything went well. It was a derby win, a huge win against Everton. Obviously, it gives all Liverpool fans a huge bragging rights over any Everton fans. Obviously, we were able to rotate the squad, give some game time to some of the players who haven't had so much game time this season, give them the confidence, but then also on the same time be able to, rest players like Firmino, Salah, so that when we go again against Bournemouth on the weekend, these guys will be ready to go. Whereas obviously Bournemouth played yesterday, a full strength team. They lost to Crystal Palace. We will just have that benefit of having some fresh legs, particularly in those forward areas. So it will be interesting to see if that plays any bearing in that game. But again, going down to the South Coast, we've actually done pretty well down in the South Coast. We've had some good games with Bournemouth down there. But I think the fresher squad from our perspective will play a role in that. So I think I think that's the best thing that kind of came out of today's game, that we were able to win so convincingly, yet be able to keep and reserve some of our best players. And I think this has been one of the criticisms of Liverpool, particularly from Man City fans and some pundits kind of going, well, without Liverpool's first 11, they're not going to be able to do anything. If Man City lost Kevin De Bruyne and still were able to win the league, if Liverpool were to lose Mo Salah, they'd be nowhere, for example. But I think just today was a great example of how that may not be the case, and we actually do have some very good players in our squad who can come in and play a role when needed. So I think obviously it was one game. I'm not getting carried away here. These players still are our A-1 team. I still expect Salah, Firmino, Mane to play the vast majority of the games, as I think Klopp will. I don't think he will change it up too much in that perspective. But on the other hand, it was just great to see some faces that we haven't seen for a while, and them actually doing really well. It's great to see, Divock Origi score so many goals. He's become kind of a legend, and he's got cult status in Liverpool now, just I think mainly from last season. I think he scored some huge goals, obviously the Barcelona goals. He scored a huge goal away at Newcastle as well to win us that game when we were trying to chase down Man City. And just all round he's kind of got this cult status now, and everything seems to be just going really, really well for Divock Origi, so I'm really happy for him. But as we always do when we end up these episodes, the shout out to Klopp for this episode is about the defence. Now, last season we were almost renowned for our defence, which led to Virgil van Dijk getting second in the Ballon d'Or, which is ridiculous. Centre-backs have got nowhere near the Ballon d'Or for so many years now. There's not been a top quality centre-back for so long, but it was Virgil van Dijk up there. But I think our defence has become a bit of an issue. Although we do look like we can score 3-4 goals easily per game, I think there will obviously be games where we're not able to do that, and we may get caught out against a team that maybe gets a bit of luck, or just a better team that can shut us out. So I think maybe we just need to sometimes be more compact, not necessarily open ourselves up as much as we do, which is great from an attacking perspective, but from a defensive perspective it just makes us a little more vulnerable. Although Lovren and Van Dijk have been playing really, really well, it's just, I think sometimes we just need to shut up shop a little better than we are doing now, particularly when we take the lead, to just close out games. But that's kind of the only real negative that came out of this game for us. Obviously it's a derby win, so that's fantastic. But we move on, we march on. Next game against Bournemouth down in the South Coast on Saturday afternoon, which again should be a cracker. As I said earlier, we've had some good games against Bournemouth, and they're a good team that like to play as well, so that's always fun. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was a great derby win for us. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll catch you on another episode.